So these are our final guided notes for the year. We're going to be going over climate change. Now, again, just like previously, I need you guys to go into the PowerPoint and click on the video and click play in order to watch the video. Thanks, guys. Now, there is a difference between climate change and global warming. Climate change refers to long-term shifts in temperature and weather. Global warming refers to the increase in the surface temperature. So I have a little comparison in the next slide. So global warming, that's that gradual increase of our Earth's temperature, and that's due to greenhouse gases. We've talked about it a little bit before. We're going to go in more detail in just a little bit. Now, climate change is a long-term change in weather patterns. So that's like the overall things are starting to shift. That doesn't necessarily mean it's getting warmer when we say climate change. Now, since 1880, scientists have been studying with thermometers and recording the data of what they're seeing. From 1880 to since 2016 to now, right, we're seeing that there's a huge shift in the global surface temperatures rising, okay? So what is happening to global temperature? If you look right here, it's increased by right around 1.2 degrees. Now, that doesn't seem like a lot, but that much of an increase does affect ecosystems. So this is super important because species adapt to their environment. A change in the weather and a change in temperatures changes the overall climate of an area. That change in the climate can make it so that a species can't quite adapt and can die off, aka go extinct. Now, based on the subject of extinction, I have a super quick little game for you guys. I know it's a little bit dark. I want you guys to guess if it's endangered or extinct. So starting here, pretty easy. You don't see T-Rexes going around, so they're going to be extinct. What about a panda? What do we think? It's endangered. You can still see these guys at the zoo. Here we have a certain species of rhino. This one's known as the black rhino. It's extinct. This is a different type of almost like a deer. It's endangered. It's almost extinct. It's one of the lowest numbers. This one right here, it's a certain species of mouse. He's extinct. This is a certain species of whale. Endangered. Here's a frog. Extinct. We're actually finding that frogs are going extinct relatively fast. It's because they have very absorptive skin, and so it's expected that already a third of the frog species of Earth have gone extinct, and it's going to keep increasing. Here's a species of tortoise. It's extinct. And this is the Amur leopard. Look at how cute it is. This one's severely endangered to the point that there's only around, I think they said 60 left in the wild. The rest of them are in breeding facilities and zoos. They're trying to see if they can reintroduce them into habitats, but they're unfortunately located in areas of China and Russia that have high populations of people, and so they haven't had very much success with reintroducing them. If you've seen the movie Rio, you've seen these birds. Fun fact, they are now extinct in the wild. So if you watched Rio 2 and they're like, yay, saving the birds, we did not successfully do that. They are now only in zoos and in breeding programs, not in the wild. This is a certain species of dolphin, and it's extinct. Another species of our rhino. Endangered. There's a certain species of rhino that the San Diego Zoo does a ton of research with, and they're trying to bring back. They only have 3 females left, I want to say, and they have preserved special cells of the males, and they're trying to see if they can also do breeding through other species of rhinos to bring them back. So all of this goes to show that humans have a significant impact on other species. Okay, climate change is a problem, especially for our animals. So climate change disrupts weather patterns, causes extreme weather events to become more common. These include things like hurricanes, droughts, and floods. Additionally, the global temperature has increased, so the number of natural disasters has increased. A great way to think of this is that if we increase the humidity, that means more, or we increase temperatures, we're going to have more moisture in the air, which means we have more water that has to come down eventually. So we're seeing huge weather patterns changing. Now, as the climate changes, we're also finding that our sea levels are changing. So, what's actually happening is we're having ice melting, and that means that we have more water coming up. So, the rising waters can cover coastal areas and they actually destroy habitats and displace entire populations of organisms. Right? Think about it. If ice is melting, the organisms that live on that ice, they have less space to go to. Whereas the organisms that are on the shoreline, those organisms, their homes are getting covered in water. And so we're seeing that it's resulting in more fresh water being added to the ocean, which, fun fact, can also affect the salinity and can also change acidity levels. And then we're also seeing with thermal expansion, as the ocean water gets warmer, it actually expands, right? Think about if you have like a plastic bottle in your car and then you like leave it in there for a while, right? It gets all hot and expands. The same thing's happening with our ocean. Now, the bright surface of the ice usually reflects 80% of sunlight that hits on. So think of it this way: sunlight comes down, hits, and when we have that white snow, we're bouncing it back. What happens though is if our ice is melting because it's hotter, we have less of that reflection. So we're actually having an increase in the Earth's temperature because ice melting. So kind of the ice and snow really does help to keep moderate temperatures. When we don't have that sunlight bouncing back, we have more of it staying on the earth, creating an increase in the temperature, which means more snow melts, which then leads to an increase in the global temperature. It's just a cycle. Now, when the area of sea is reduced, less sunlight again is able to reflect back. That leads to our oceans warming and then even less ice for animals like polar bears to live on and even different seals, which means that we really are slowly killing off our species and endangering them further. Again, this is going to drive further and faster climate change. So no matter how fast we act, the global temperature is set to continue to rise as a result of these greenhouse gases that are already in our atmosphere. The problems we are experiencing now are only going to get worse, right? We already have greenhouse gases trapped. We already have an increasing Earth temperature. Since our Earth's already warm, that means we're going to have more of that snow melting, right? We have less of that bounce back. And so we're going to have even more heat trapped on our Earth. And this really leads to a cycle of increased temperature. While like 1 and 1.5 degrees Celsius doesn't seem like a big deal, it is a big deal in the long term for a lot of our organisms. Now, this is also having a really negative impact on things like coral. Coral, we're finding they're dying off. When this happens, it's known as coral bleaching. We have a significant number of species loss. We have an increase in droughts, that means not enough water. And then we're also having rising sea levels. So in regards to our climate change, what's happening is that we have greenhouse gases and we have that energy coming down, and we have these natural gases, carbon, methane, vapor, that kind of remain in our atmosphere. And this is good because this actually helps to warm our Earth so that it's survivable, otherwise we'd freeze to death at night. However, normally what happens is we have some of this heat bouncing back. And so when it bounces back, we don't have like an overheating, right? We want to lose some of the heat but still keep some. So that's going to keep the Earth all nice and comfy and all that warm weather that's essential for life. So climate change can be caused by a number of things. It can be natural processes, it can be sudden events, right? If a volcano erupts, we're going to have an increase in the amount of greenhouse gases. This is natural. However, humans are actually driving climate change at an exponential rate. Another issue is deforestation, aka the destruction of trees. Not only are we destroying ecosystems by cutting down and burning trees, we're releasing more fossil fuels, and then we're not replanting them at a fast enough rate, and so we actually are decreasing the amount of oxygen available for us on Earth. So bad. Remember, trees catch our carbon dioxide. We do not want an unending amount of carbon dioxide. And then we also have a reduction of biodiversity. So having less organisms in an ecosystem creates an unstable ecosystem. Natural loss can lead to less able to make it so that we're less able to capture carbon, right? If we don't have enough plants, we're not getting carbon. Also, in the ocean, all the organisms in there, aka plants and seaweed, make up 51% of our Earth's oxygen. Okay, the less organisms we have there, the less resilient we are to our rising temperatures, right? If we're not breathing fast enough to the change, then we can't survive. And so that's really what we're seeing in the reduction of biodiversity. This is just kind of showing a little study that was done based on the amount of CO2 being produced. It's not good. United States isn't even the highest, is a scary thing. So these are a bunch of countries that really have very high. Think about this though, like we have so many other countries that aren't even on this list because they produce hardly any carbon emissions, but this number is just going up. Our poorer countries, they are less able to adapt to climate change and they actually suffer the most. Okay, so they don't have the infrastructure, they don't have the resources to combat climate change in the same way, and us and what we're doing is severely negatively impacting them. Okay, this being said, the countries who have contributed the least to climate crisis are the ones who are the most affected. Okay, so the United States has done a ton of contributions with industrialization and is pretty much very mildly affected, whereas different areas of Africa and South America, in the Middle East, are having severe impacts as a result. So we have the responsibility to consider the most vulnerable when planning climate action. Remember, there's groups that contribute more, but the vulnerable communities, they're not contributing as much and we are impacting them. How we can fix it is through advocating to our governments to reduce the amount of greenhouse gases, encouraging and advocating for businesses to go sustainable and less plastic waste. We can also make individual choices ourselves of eating healthier and reusing things. We can be voices in our communities, right, of going, hey, come on guys, let's get our act together. Here's an alternative product. You can even be an entrepreneur who forms those alternative products. Quick video for you guys. If you could please go onto the PowerPoint and press play on this one. Again, climate change is affecting us. In the United States, we really don't see as much of the impact, but it is directly affecting us, and we are leading to more severe results in other countries as well. Hope you guys enjoyed our last final guided notes. We're going to be going over this with worksheets and more projects soon. Okay, take care, guys.